Alright, turn 18, I think. And it looks like we have this and one more turn left in the draw pile. So I'm going to try to stick everything into one video. I'm also feeling kind of bad about spamming your feeds with all these labyrinth videos. So the good news is that that will now come to an end. The bad news is that I'll probably start back up again with another game. No less than 20 minutes apiece. So, looking back at the videos of the last turn, I noticed that I accidentally dropped US Prestige during the cleanup phase, forgetting that I had just performed a regime change operation, leaving no Islamist rule countries on the board during the end of turn. So I brought that back up from 7 to 8. I don't think that it affected any War of Ideas rules, as we were in the right zones. We received 9 cards this turn, and the jihadists received 8. They're very low in the moderate section of the funding track, so if they drop any further, none of those 10 cells would be available to them. At the moment they have 5 ready to be recruited. Here's a look at our hand. We have sanctions. If Patriot Act were in effect, then we would be able to play it to drop funding. We have all of these one-op US events. Special Forces removes a cell where there are troops or adjacent to troops. Backlash, this is new to us. Play if you can select a plot in a Muslim country. If unblocked, the plot subtracts rather than adds funding. So during the plot resolution step, usually if the plot is in a Muslim country, they would gain +1 funding or +2 funding if the country is at good governance. And then we would lose a prestige if the country has troops. And then they would roll a number of dice equal to the plot's number, and for each success, they would worsen governance 1 level toward poor and remove an aid. Biometrics makes it more difficult to travel. This affects the whole turn. Indo-Pakistani talks. Play of Pakistan, good or fair. It's currently poor. Then we have 1 unassociated event, Iran. Play and test a Shia mixed country. If yes, play remove 1 cell there or from Iran. We've seen a lot of those. And then we have these 3 jihadist events. Place 2 cells in Indonesia. Play if Somalia or Yemen under Islamist rule. Well, Yemen was not too long ago. While either country is under Islamist rule, no end of turn funding drop. It usually goes down at the end of a turn by 1. And then Lebanon War. US discards a random card, -1 prestige. This is probably 1. Place a cell in a Shia mixed country. 1 that we would discard at the end. This is probably 1 that we would play earlier, sooner rather than later. But it would take a while for Yemen to fall under Islamist rule. The first jihadist card is Fatah. Place a cell in Pakistan. Everything else is already in effect, as shown by this marker. Then they draw Iran. We both have an Iran card this turn. It affects us both differently. It's an unassociated event. Select and test a Shia mixed country. We roll a 10, which gives us Yemen. So, well, we wouldn't test it since it's already marked. And I think I might have done that differently before, which really actually hurt us in Turkey. If jihadists make 2 jihad rolls there, regardless, I suppose, of whether or not there are cells there, 1 succeeds. You ignore the failures, meaning, I suppose, that no cells get put back on the funding track for failures. And you don't shift it to Islamist rule, but I can, as a jihadist AI, shift it from ally to neutral. Now in the solitaire game we would spend these 2 ops to, let's see, recruit in Yemen, or actually no, recruit in Iraq. It has the highest resource, rolling 2, and both succeed. We are going to play biometrics to affect cell travel for the rest of the turn. And this 2-up card, which doesn't get triggered, and we're going to use it to conduct a war of ideas in Syria to try to improve governance there from fair to good. We get a +1 from aid, a +1 from prestige, a -1 for shifting to good, and another +1 for the adjacent ally, so it's a +2. We roll a 6 and succeed. Bringing good resources up to 14. Okay, back to the jihadist action phase. Took a little bit of a break there, so it's going to be tricky getting back mid-turn, but they draw Predator, a playable US event with which they will plot. Let's see here. In Pakistan, rolling a die, they roll a 3 and succeed, bringing a plot to the board. Their second card is Martyrdom Operation, Skillful Suicide Attack. Play if a non-Islamist rule country has a cell. Replace the cell with any 2 available plot markers, and it works just like plotting. So we would replace this cell in Pakistan with 2 markers. So now there are 3 plots in Pakistan. In order to perform an alert operation and block a plot from a country, we would have to use 3 ops. We have these 2 cards that are each worth 3 ops. However, Lebanon War would force us to discard a random card and drop 1 in prestige. It would also place a cell in a Shia mixed country. I think it would be a good idea to try to block as many of those plots as possible. We have Indo-Pakistani talks for 3 ops that we could spend to remove one of the plots. Then I have Backlash in my hand, an event. Muslim casualties of terror resented. Play if you can select a plot in a Muslim country. If unblocked, the plot subtracts rather than adds to funding. When a plot is in a Muslim country, it raises funding by 1, or by 2 if that country is that good. And it drops prestige by 1 if there are troops in the country, which there are, so we won't be able to prevent that from happening. Unless we want to use Lebanon War, which I'd rather not, because that would drop prestige either way and also place a cell on the board. Governance is already at poor. There is no aid in Pakistan, so I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend 3 ops to remove one of these at random. We haven't looked at them, so we don't know which ones we're removing. And then Backlash, which means that we resolve the plots at this point, which we can do, because that was our second card. So we'll flip these over. Resolve this one first. Play if you can select a plot in a Muslim country. If unblocked, the plot subtracts rather than adds to funding. Well, we flipped over one plot, and that was the plot that we were going to apply to backlash. So that would have raised funding by 1. It now drops it down from 4 to 3 into the tight area of the funding track. We still lose a prestige, and we'll resolve the second, and it's also a 1 plot. However, this raises funding back up to 4, and we still lose another prestige. Now we're down in medium on the prestige track. They're back up to moderate, and we'll enter the next action phase. Back to the jihadists. They draw Vieira de Melo Slain, a non-playable non-US event with an ops value of 1, which means they can't perform a major jihad quite yet. They would need 2 successes. Iraq is not a besieged regime. So instead they're going to recruit to Iraq. Rolling a die, they roll a 4 and fail. Their next card is this unassociated event. If troops in overstretch, +2 funding. If troops at low intensity, which it is, -2 funding, dropping from 4 to 2, tight funding, and they're going to attempt another recruit. They roll a 5 and fail. Alright, so we have 5 cards left in our hand. 2 of which are these one-up US events, neither of which we're very well prepared to play. This sanctions wouldn't get triggered. And special forces would allow us to move a cell, but only from a country containing troops or adjacent to a country with troops. There are none. Then we have this pretty nice 2-op unassociated event, which would allow us to remove a cell from a Shia mixed country. That wouldn't really prevent possible major jihad in Iraq. But taking a look here, we do have these 2 jihadist events, both of which are eligible to be triggered when played. Lebanon War is one that I think we're going to hold on to and discard at the end of the turn, as it would not only force us, or allow us, depending on how you see it, to discard a random card from our hand, but also it would drop prestige, and prestige is something that we're kind of struggling with. It's not horrible, but it's very difficult to bring it back up. So that would drop prestige and also place a cell in a Shia mixed country. This one is interesting. This would place 2 cells in Indonesia. This is the Southeast Asian Jihadist card. It's worth 2 ops, and a turn or 2 ago I played a card to deploy troops. I think it was from Indonesia to Pakistan. And I think I was trying to set up for a situation where I would meet a precondition to trigger an event that would allow me to remove a cadre recruit or a cell from Pakistan. We can't disrupt them, disrupt the cells there, unless it's a regime change country because of Fatah. And it just never came to fruition, so we're gonna have to, that was a waste. I think it was, maybe it wasn't quite worth 3 ops at the time, but it just didn't work out. So we're gonna try to use them again to our advantage, to try to bring prestige up at the same time by playing this card, which would bring 2 cells to the board, which is great for the jihadists because they're at tight funding. These are cells that would normally be unavailable to them to recruit. And then with the 2 ops, we'll deploy our troops back to Indonesia. And you can disrupt, which we'll do now with this. We can disrupt in a country that either is a non-Muslim country, or an ally, or a country with at least 2 troops. So at this moment, this country would qualify as being an ally country. We wouldn't need the 2 troops, but since we have the 2 troops there, we would get to affect 2 cells at once. And each time we disrupt The first one would be flipping it from sleeper to excuse me, to active. We've got to raise our prestige by 1. So now we're back in the high section of the prestige track, and that ends our action phase. The last 2 cards for the jihadists are NATO, and it is a unplayable US event with which they will conduct a major jihad in Iraq. All cells go active, so they have 6, 5 of which are sleeper cells. Those get flipped. And they grab 3 dice. They're hoping for 2 successes. 2 die roll results ranging from 1 to 3. And they roll 4, 5, and 6 and fail. For each failure, if 3 rolls at poor fail to shift a country to Islamist rule, shift it 1 box toward ally, and place besieged regime. That is a major failure, but it would help them in a future attempt because really we're already at the country is already an ally. So they're going to go for that again when they can next time. And for their second card they get Somali jihadists place a cell in Somalia. Remove. We are going to spend both of these ops to disrupt. In Indonesia, we remove both of these cells. We do have to place a cadre recruit marker, but we get to raise our prestige again to 8. And that ends the turn, and I think we're entering our last turn. Alright, so we are about to enter the final turn. Here is a look at the victory track. We currently have 14 good resources, and we want to make sure at the end of the game that we have no less than 12. And we also want to make sure that the Islamist resources does not reach 6. And it looks like they're about to gain 3 by conducting a major jihad in what is now a besieged regime, which makes it that much easier for them. I was keeping track of poor Islamist countries and fair good countries. It doesn't really affect victory conditions. I was doing that in case an event called for it or it was needed for the flowchart, but it doesn't seem like it was. It is still nice to know at a glance who has how many countries. But we did draw 9 cards, and let's take a look at them. It's not looking great, but we do have a lot of 3-ops cards. Here's a look at our final hand. We have Special Forces, remove a cell. We have Back Channel and Safer Now. These can interact in a very interesting way. We have these 2 3-op unassociated events. One is oil price spike, and we definitely want to avoid playing this for the event if the jihadists ever gain Iraq and another, let's say Pakistan, and they're at 5 resources. This would actually, if you play it for the event, boost the resources values of all oil exporter countries, bringing them at that point to 6. So I think we're going to try to either play it earlier or play it for the ops instead. This one is actually really helpful. Although we do have all of these 3-op cards, we're thinking of using them for the events, and we don't want to have to hold them in our hand in fear that we'll have lots of plots to deal with over the course of the turn, but this would allow us to remove plots in an ally or non-Muslim country. If the jihadists were to plot, they would plot in Italy, Somalia, or Iraq, as the board stands right now, all of which are ally or non-Muslim countries. So this is a very good one to use for the event as well. Then we have all of these jihadist events. This one would only activate if there are troops in Iraq, which there are not. Gaza War, we would discard a card. It raises funding, lowers prestige. Regional Al-Qaeda, the only unmarked Muslim country on the board is Morocco, and so this event would not get triggered, and it's worth 3 ops. Wahhabism, add the number on Saudi Arabia's governance to funding. They currently actually are at 1 funding, so even if we play this, since Saudi Arabia only has a governance value of 1, it's at good. That would only raise them from 1 to 2, and they're still at tight and have no access to any more cells to recruit. So this is actually one that is not as harmful at this point. Martyrdom Operation, one that I will probably discard at the end. The first jihadist card is Homegrown, place a cell in the United Kingdom. A playable event. Their second card is Leak. Play if enhanced measures, renditions, or wiretapping is in the event box. Flip 1 such marker. We'll flip wiretap. Blocking event, roll US posture, and then prestige, shift an ally to neutral. That is a playable event. It's pretty awful. US stays, actually no, they roll a 3, which means that's a modified 4. On a 1 through 4, a country is soft. I may have misstated that earlier. So actually the US is at soft at the moment, and we roll for prestige. It drops by 3. Uh-oh. 1, 2, 3. Thinking about safer now. We're down at 5 or medium. Shift an ally to neutral. Let's see here. Leak. Among good. Pakistan, then aid. Besieged regime. Highest resource. An ally to neutral. Saudi Arabia. Or the Gulf states. Odds, evens. We roll a 3. I think I'm going to wait to play back channel and safer now. And in this case I would probably play back channel first now that we're soft, to instead play these for the ops to disrupt in Libya and disrupt in Indonesia. We have 2 troop cubes in each of those countries, and there's a cadre recruit marker in each of those countries. That would raise our prestige up by 2 and remove these cadre recruit markers. Wahhabism would also increase funding from 1 to 2. The jihadists play Axis of Evil. The US does not have Iran, Hezbollah, or Jaish al-Mahdi cards. US posture now becomes hard. Wow, flip-flopping here. Then roll prestige. Another hit to a prestige possibly. Oh, but we roll a 5, which means it rises by 3. 1, 2, 3. Interesting. I think that's the second time Axis of Evil has actually helped us in this game. Their second card is Kazakh Strain. Play if Central Asia has a cell, which it does not. So this is an unplayable non-US event, and they will use it to conduct a major jihad in Iraq. Rolling 2 dice, and they're hoping for 1, 2, or 3, but they only need 1 success this time. And they roll double fives and fail. Well, geez. We were expecting Iraq to be under Islamist rule by now. So we're going to continue to hold off on Save for Now and Back Channel and see what else we can play. We definitely do not want to play oil price spike for the event, just in case that situation arises. And before I misstated, playing this earlier would not redeem that, the fact that could possibly trigger an automatic jihadist victory, as it's a lapsing event that affects the entire turn. So let's see what else we would do. We could work on conducting a war of ideas in these other countries, these other Muslim countries, Turkey, Indonesia. It won't be easy, and it's not necessary. We still do have 14 good resources. It is possible to have good neutral countries. Well, like a lot of games, there's a process of elimination. We're going to save that. Probably discard that. Rather not play that. That leaves these two, along with oil price spikes. So this would allow us to remove a cell from a country containing troops or adjacent to a country with troops. The United Kingdom has a sleeper cell, technically adjacent to Libya on this map. That would leave a cadre. They do have a recruit value there of 3, but it would take them that much longer to prepare to plot there, for example. Another one-op card here. There is an active cell in Italy that'll be replaced by a cadre recruit. Alright, so the first jihadist card is Kashmir. Shift Pakistan 1 box toward adversary and place a cell there. And then they follow that with Pakistani offensive. Play of Pakistan ally and marked with Fatah. They were just a second ago, but regardless, this event would never have gotten played. Instead, they're going to use the 3 to conduct a major jihad in Iraq, this time rolling 3 dice, hoping that at least one of them results in a 1, 2, or 3. And they get a 1, 2, and 4. And they only needed 1 success to drop Iraq's governance and alignment from poor ally to Islamist rule. The besieged regime marker and aid markers go away. And what else? They get +3 on funding, equal to the value of the resources of the country. That bumps them up from tight to moderate, or 2 to 5. And now they have 2 cells available to them on the funding track. And what else do they get? Very important. They gain 3 Islamist resources. There are 2 major problems with my original plan, and that is this cell in Somalia and the fact that Iraq is now an Islamist rule country. I cannot play Save for Now as it breaks both those preconditions. I don't know what I was thinking. That is not a viable option. Neither is Back Channel, as far as I can tell, because at one point it was when we switched to soft posture, but at this point I don't see it happening anytime soon. A reassessment would cost 2 3-value cards and take up an entire turn. So those cards will most likely, along with oil price spike, be played. Will be used for their ops, which gives us a lot of ops points to use this turn. Let's see. Well, we can go ahead and conduct a regime change operation in Iraq, spending oil price spike for the ops, bringing 6 troop cubes from the track to the target country. There's a little bit of a space issue. And this now makes Iraq an ally, a poor ally, drops Islamist resources back down to 0. We'll place this regime change marker. And we roll governance, we did, okay. Roll prestige. We roll a 6. It goes up by 2 to 11. We're very high. Alright, so the US posture is hard. World posture is hard. US prestige is very high. We're going to take advantage of the situation. Spend the 3 ops from back channel to conduct a war of ideas in Indonesia. We get a -1 for attempting to shift to good. -1, +2 for being very high in prestige. So we get a +1. And I'm not going to count India as an ally. I think those are just countries with alignment tracks. We're at a +1, so that's not excellent, but we're going to go for it. Then we roll a 6, and it worked. So that brings good resources up past 15. We'll just keep it there at 15. Their first card is Madrasas. It's a playable jihadist event. Use this and second card to recruit. Oh, that was their last card. I'm like grabbing here at the board. Alright. Ignore funding. This is awful for them, actually. They could have done something better with that, but it's a playable card. Ignore funding. You may recruit in countries marked worse than fair, even if no cell or cadre. That's not really going to do anything for them. You may recruit in countries marked worse than fair. Alright, so that's a poor country. Even if there's no cell there. Well, I guess they can recruit, according to the flowchart, in a Islamist rule country. No, in the highest resource country. Besieged regime, most cells and troops. Iraq. Okay. They roll a 2 and succeed. And we have cards in our hand. We have cards that hurt us, one of which we're discarding. The other one would have only affected funding and prestige. So that ends the game. And obviously it was a learning game, judging by the victory track. I know that maybe a little bit of luck involved, but mainly misinterpreting the rules to benefit me unintentionally, I swear. I'm looking forward to trying this out again, especially without the flowchart for a little while before I go back to the flowchart, and more carefully, off camera. Always helps to be able to focus on the details. For some reason, the camera is both helpful and distracting, if you know what I mean. So anyway, thank you for watching. I have some more footage from my Red Winter project that I'm preparing right now to post, and I'm gonna be, preparing for the next playthrough here shortly, so stay tuned.